Welcome to episode 192B of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today is a special bonus episode. So you'll notice the slightly different format and slightly different intro here. Wanted to make it a little bit different because I don't have a guest on this specific interview. This is just me chatting, and I get a lot of questions like in between episodes because I'll just sprinkle a couple of things that I'm doing, and I don't really go into depth of what's going on in my life and what projects I'm working on and how they've gone. So what this episode is this is an update of what's new since the last time I did an episode like this, which was, I believe, episode 145. So we're almost a year after that. Time really flies. And so I'm going to be going over today what I've been working on with the Campground, our first successful season, the Airbnb glamping operation, what happened there, what's going on in Florida, the hurricane hit. So this is fresh. I'm just recording this, probably releasing it the day I'm recording it or the day after. Some of the things that I'm doing to build the community back up. So before the whole lockdowns started, I had the Greater Hamilton REI Meetup. And we had meetings every month. We got up to 100 investors showing up, talking and sharing ideas. And I wanted to revive that in some format, but I felt that there were some changes that needed to be made. So I'm going to be going into that. So if you're driving in your car, this is very much a listen type episode. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. Appreciate it. Make sure you leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already done that, and leave a thumbs up too. It just helps this get out to more people. So, like I said, going to go into some things that are going on in my life. So let's start with I had a kid 9.5 months ago in December 24th to be exact. And man, life changed from there. So I was, doing my podcast entirely on my own, or I'd have some help for the live episodes. But I was doing still a lot of the editing myself. And as soon as my son came into my life, it was like everything had to change. I needed to hire help. I was kind of like sinking in all that. So between everything I was doing, all the investing, and it was time to make a change. So I'll dig into a little bit more of what I've made a change with, but specifically with the podcast, I brought on a full-time editor. So those of you who are watching the YouTube content, aside from this episode, which is just very simple, we've got some fantastic editing. The quality's really never been better, and we're getting great guests on. I actually have the new studio here, so I have my office space with a permanent setup, so that's a big change. We're going to be able to get so many more great guests on the show, and I'm really looking forward to that. And now I don't need to batch it where I have 4 people all in the same day and I'm totally exhausted by the end of it. I can just have, a couple of interviews in a day and pump out content a lot more regularly and a lot more current, which in today's market, when things are changing so often, that's kind of something we want, Okay, so starting with the Campground season 1. What went well? Well, I think the glamping actually outperformed on an individual basis, like per tent. I think we actually did better than we thought we were going to do. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I bought with a few partners. We bought a campground in the Tobermory area, and we shifted away from the seasonal renter model that they had before, and we switched over to a primarily glamping focused model. We also do still have transient camping where people come in for a couple of nights and then leave. But primary thing and the primary income generator for us is the glamping. So we have tents with queen size beds. So people who want to do camping light, they want an experience, they want something they can share on Instagram. This works really well for them. So for those of you who haven't checked it out, on Instagram at the Grotto Getaway Glamp, and you can also book on Airbnb, booking.com, or if you want to do it directly through our website, we sure would love that. It saves fees for us, and it kind of works out best for everybody. grottogetaway.com if you'd like to check that out. The biggest thing was manpower. We just didn't have the manpower or woman power that we needed to get things up and running fast enough. We actually didn't launch our glamping until I think it was June 20th or June 19th. And at that point, we were just a little too far along in the season to fully take advantage. So we had a killer July. We were still pretty well fully occupied on the tents we launched and the units we launched. But it took us even into August to get some of our trailers launched that we had ready. And despite all this, like all of the units actually did pretty darn well. We had one of our tents that did just shy of $15,000 in revenue which I was pretty blown away at. And I can only imagine what could happen in a full season. And so that's what we're really looking forward to doing, is getting a full run up for this coming season and just seeing what we are capable of doing. And some of the income targets we had set originally, like I had hoped we'd do 400K in the first year. We didn't unfortunately hit that. However, I do think that we're well in line to do that and then some for this coming year. There's been a lot of learning, a lot of headaches. I think that, in the area, there's such a demand for Airbnbs there that people don't really have monthly rentals available in the area. So the big thing for employees is they don't have anywhere to live. So what we're doing for next year to kind of change gears is we're providing accommodation. So by the way, if you or somebody you think might want to work for our camp and help in either management or maintenance, let us know. It might be a nice way to spend a summer in the Tobermory area, have a free place to stay, get to work, and you can also explore the area. So, okay. Now, Florida. So a lot of people have been asking me, wanted to know, if you follow me on Instagram, you do know that my place has survived. So I had 3 places under construction at the time that the hurricane hit. We were right in the eye of it, and we were okay. So I had some shingle damage on one of the properties that I know for sure. I'm pretty sure I had shingle damage on the other 2. But rather than the shingles being ripped off, they were just like sort of bent up, and I don't think we lost our watertight. Seeing a video of the one property, the wind was so strong it actually knocked a sheet of drywall off the ceiling. So there were some minor things like that, like a couple sheets of drywall that had to be refastened or replaced, a little bit of insulation that had to be replaced, and then some water had wicked through the wall just because it wasn't stuccoed on the outside. So nothing too bad. If you check out my Instagram, you'll see some pictures on a reel that I did. It was a kind of an experimental reel. Went way too fast. You'll know what you'll know what I mean if you take a look at it. So, and if you don't know, at the Andrew Hines for my Instagram. So I do try and share reels, highlights of our episodes, and updates on what I'm up to. So a lot of the Florida stuff I've been sharing. If you want to keep up to speed on what I'm doing, that's a good place to check out. Okay, so in terms of the market, I'm expecting things to resume. I think there's a huge opportunity down there because all these people who lost their homes, like Fort Myers Beach, for instance, like I think more than half the people lost their homes. Now there's all these people who need a place to live. There's people who had homes damaged in Cape Coral. So if anything, I think the rental market just got stronger in that area. As far as values go, I think that those are actually going to be positively affected by what happened because there's less available inventory on the market. But I also do think that there's a huge opportunity for somebody willing to buy in, say, a place like Fort Myers where it's kind of uncertain, Fort Myers Beach. It's kind of uncertain what the future looks like when the majority of that island was wiped out. So something to keep an eye on. My mother-in-law, she had 7 places on the beach, and she has lost for sure 2 of them. I think a third one as well. But I saw some aerial views, and so yeah, there were 3 for sure gone because you could see the stilts, the piers that these houses were on, and the house was gone. And then there was another house that was just on foundation, which when you're right off the beach in that area is not a good thing. And the house was just completely gone. So there's going to be some insurance claims. Unfortunately for a lot of people I was talking to an insurance agent down there, and apparently a lot of people don't get the flood endorsement because it's very expensive. So since their lenders don't require flood insurance, they don't take it. And I feel really, really bad for the people who are kind of going through this because I think a lot of them are going to have their claims denied. I sure hope that there's a scenario that works out for them where they can, find a way through this because it definitely is unfortunate. More than anything, I just wanted to help in all this, but with a 9.5-month-old at home, it's been a pretty tough concept to think of packing up and going down there to help with aid. A couple of positives though. I mean, like looking at the builds I'm doing, like that's almost like a selling feature when I put them for sale. Survived Hurricane Ian unscathed, didn't flood, just a little bit of shingle damaged. I think that's a big selling point. And it really goes to show that the new construction is a very viable strategy down there now. So my houses, they've been raised up out of the floodplain. They're outside of the 100-year floodplain, they call it. So meaning once every 100 years, they would expect that to flood, but it didn't. And I've heard people refer to this hurricane for that area as being a once in 500 years type event. So feel very fortunate about that. Obviously, we're built with cinder block. We've got impact glass, so no glass got shattered, all for hurricanes. And then, of course, shingles, they're done a lot better down there. Roofing is a very serious permitted job down there. And I think I know why, right? Because you'll lose an entire roof if you don't do your shingles right. So they nailed them 6 times, whereas in Canada, you'll see a lot of people will do less than that for sure. In terms of the podcast and just kind of reflecting back, so shifting gears, working through my list. In terms of the podcast and looking back, it started in 2019 and it was February. It was just me talking into a camera just like this, kind of rambling along about what I'm up to, my thoughts on investing. And it's been a fun journey. Like I said, like my life kind of got overwhelming after my son arrived. And the help I have with Walter, who is my full-time video editor, and he does the highlights on Instagram and everything. And he's now editing my new YouTube channel, which is REI Hot Seat. And if you're not subscribed to that, make sure you do that. I'll put the link in the description below. So he's been doing all that. Absolute godsend. Absolutely, between he and my assistant Jane have pretty much bought my life back. But with that said, now the podcast has a cost associated with it. It always did, but it was a manageable cost. Now it's costing about $1,500 a month for 4 episodes, and I'm able to spread that cost around a little bit on some of the other things he does. But what I'm looking to do now is I'm going to be bringing in some sponsors. My first sponsor is going to be my brother-in-law, Jacob Campanero, and we're kind of openly chatting about some things we can do together. So those of you who've been following, I was never really big on sponsors, mainly because, you're attaching somebody's name to your brand. And with Jake, obviously being family, knowing him as long as I've known him, I know he knows his stuff. He's a primary guest on REI Hot Seat, my new YouTube channel, because he's investor focused. He does a lot of commercial real estate. He's taught me a lot of things about commercial real estate. And we always have a lot of great chats, and that's really what that show's about. So he's sponsoring this podcast. And I've also monetized on YouTube. So just taking some steps to try and turn it into an income generating endeavor, because 4 years in, it's kind of like, it's time. It's time to do that. So I appreciate all of you who have followed and listened for so long. It means a lot to me. It's been really fun. I love the feedback. I think we're over like 350 reviews on Apple Podcasts and averaging 5 stars. So I couldn't be more thankful for all of you who've been with me all this time. And I promise to maintain the quality that we've had on the podcast and keep it going. And I ask for your understanding as I bring in some sponsors, and understand that by supporting my sponsors, you support me, you support this podcast, and the education that it provides and adds to people's lives. So thank you. I appreciate your understanding in advance. And please support my sponsors. Because like I said, you support my sponsors, you support me, you support this show. I promise I'm gonna bring on good people, good sponsors that are value add and help the people they work with. So REI Hot Seat. So what's that? So REI Hot Seat, REI, so real estate investing. REI Hot Seat is an idea I had because everybody asked me, not everybody, but a lot of people who message me and give me feedback, people I talk to, they say, hey, the one thing that's really different about your podcast is you don't let people off the hook with the numbers. You actually ask them, okay, what's the rental income? What did you buy it for? I get a lot of that feedback saying people like the actual number crunching. They want to know more about that. And it helps them see how I look at a deal, and it helps them look at other deals themselves. So that idea was the reason for REI Hot Seat. Initially, the idea for REI Hot Seat was just deal crunching, active deals, and this is why I needed a realtor to work with. So Jake was the obvious guy. We actually share an office space now because he was renting an office right here in Burlington, and he had an open room, which is now this podcast studio in my office, which is fantastic. So because he's so close and he knows his stuff, and obviously we get along great, awesome way to do a lot of episodes. And we will have other guests too, but Jake will be a primary. And we're going over active real estate deals. So active, available today, hopefully, the odd time we'll just go over a deal that maybe has already been done. But for the most part, we're looking at active real deals that you could actually get and crunching them from our perspective. And I wanted to give people a look at how people who look at a lot of this type of stuff, look at a lot of investment real estate, look at things, the questions we ask, and the things we should watch out for. So that's where these experts that I bring on are going to be so critical, because I'm going to ask them the hard questions. I'm going to put them on the hot seat. So that's where the name came from. So the hot seat, you're on the hot seat if you're getting asked all the questions. We also just did a market update on REI Hot Seat. So that'll be part of it. If we don't have a great deal to review, we might just talk market and what's happening, what's changing, and it's current. So these are recorded weekly and released weekly. So there's not a big lag. It's very current information. The nice thing is that you might be able to actually find a deal and work with whatever realtors on the show and actually put something together, which would be pretty cool. I haven't had that feedback yet, but we're only 3 episodes in as of tonight when I'm recording that. 3rd episode's launching. So please subscribe to that channel. The link will be in the description on this. And if you're listening on the podcast platform, it'll be in the show notes. So the next thing is I had a special shout out to Erwin Zito, friend of the show, friend of mine, really smart guy, entrepreneur, and good golfer. Not relevant. But anyways, Erwin is running his Wealth Hacker conference again. So for those of you who knew the last one, that was in 2019 before all the lockdowns. He had Grant Cardone as his primary guest. It was an absolute banger. Pretty much everybody that I knew in the REI community was there, and I was just really impressed by what he did. He's running another event, and I forget who the guest is offhand. Erwin came on the podcast, and that episode is going to be launching next Sunday. So not this coming Sunday, but the following. That'll be episode 194. So because of that, I thought his episode was launching sooner. The event is on November 12th. If you're interested in attending, it's all about holistic wealth. It's about not just looking at real estate, but looking at other avenues. How do you have a holistic approach to building wealth in your life? And I think that that's a strong, smart concept to be looking at. I mean, it's not just real estate. I think real estate's fantastic, but we all want to have open minds as to other ways to deploy our capital, especially in a market now where a lot of real estate investments are, if you're assuming no appreciation, which I am right now, it's actually kind of challenging to find something that makes a whole lot of sense. Not to say that there aren't deals coming, there are, but definitely good to have a few different opportunities, a few different outlooks, and maybe be considering, am I going to look at options? Am I going to look at stocks? I mean, I'm personally not right now. Not that I don't think it's a great idea. Am I going to look at private lending? Am I, what else can I do? And in even other types of real estate to diversify. Not financial advice, by the way. As you guys know, but I'll just say it just so the disclaimer's on the record. This show is never financial advice. Of course, always check with your financial advisor before you make an investment decision. I think most people are on the same page with that, but I just want to make sure it's said. Okay, so final thing on my list is the new Meetup. So people ask me over and over again, now that the pandemic's over, now that the lockdowns are over, when are you going to do another Meetup? And I wanted to, but I wanted to do it in a way that would make sense. The old Meetup, so the Greater Hamilton REI Meetup, we had a Facebook group for, and I thought I did a good job with the community rules, but ultimately what happened is it kind of turned into a bit of a spam fest in that people were posting deals, and there were people I didn't know posting self-promotions, and eventually it kind of just, the group blew up because people love the concept. Like we had 100 people out to our events per month, but the group got out of hand. So I'm not going to be using that Facebook group anymore. I decided to rebrand it, and we're going to call it the GTA West REI Meetup. And this meetup, we actually booked our first venue. So our first meetup is going to be November 3rd from 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. in Hamilton. And I'm not going to give the exact location because I want you to join the group. And then I'm going to have an event link there that you can join. We want to make sure we know who's coming so that we can keep the venue apprised of it. In the past, we did it at Nickelbrook here in Burlington, but they're moving locations. I am looking to set up for future events at their new location. We probably won't have one in December, but we'll do another in January. We might do December, but I'm leaning probably not, just, given proximity to Christmas and my son's birthday. Okay, so why go to these events for anybody who hasn't? They're awesome. I always thought the best part of an REI event was the networking. And so many of these events, they have speakers, and you barely get any time to network, and you're there for 2-3 hours, but you only got like a half hour of networking. For me, I thought it would be better to just have a few hours of networking. And that was the concept that, we ran with the Greater Hamilton REI meetup, and the concept that we're going to continue to run with for the GTA West meetup. The difference with the GTA West meetup is that we're going to have some sponsors there that provide services to investors. And this is still conceptual at this point. But of course, Jake will be there as a sponsor, and then we'll probably have some others. I don't know, there might be some signage. That will evolve over time, especially as we secure our location and kind of solidify all that. It will continue to be free. That was the biggest thing. It was free. Support the venue that we're going to. So, buy a drink, buy a snack, or what have you. Support them for hosting and for not charging us. So if they don't charge us, we're not going to charge for the guests. We just want to get people together, talk real estate. It gives people who wanted to chat with me an opportunity to chat with me, because I can't take one-on-one requests normally. Like if somebody wants to book a coaching call, that's one thing. But typically I just get too many of the requests to connect with people one-on-one. And that's a great opportunity to do that if you'd like to. So thanks for sticking with me through this. I think I kept this relatively concise. So this is a shorter episode. I think I got through all my points, and again, lots happening. So lots on my plate right now. Lots of really cool things coming down the pike for the podcast, and then of course REI Hot Seat. Lots of content coming there. I ask you, if you've been enjoying the content, please support it. Leave a 5-star review if you're an audio listener. Keep helping us grow. Keep helping more people find out about the podcast. Good things will come from there. It allows me to keep doing this and to keep finding better guests and to dedicate more of my time to the content itself rather than producing the content. So if I have more time that I can hire out these other jobs, it gives me more opportunity to just focus on networking and connecting with the people who are going to come on and share their stories, which I appreciate all of you who have done that, and all the value you've added for the audience. So thanks to all the guests who've been on the show. All right, thank you so much, and we will see you on episode 193, which is launching on Sunday.